rights lawyer, went on to win a seat in Congress and has been one of the most prominent national voices against the GOP's redistricting efforts. And joining us now is the lady herself, Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Congresswoman, thanks so much for being with us. And so you're a veteran of this 2021 effort that definitely, it shaped a lot of headlines, but at the end of the day, the national conversation was stoked about voting rights legislation, but nothing happened nationally. What's different at this moment?
Yeah, so thank you for talking about what happened in 2021. I was listening in as you were talking to the Rev, and you mentioned the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, as well as we were fighting to get the Freedom to Vote Act passed. Ultimately, obviously, this was a decision that came down to whether or not Congress was going to do so. But at the end of the day, the story that most people don't talk about is the fact that this terrible voter suppression bill actually got a little better. Did it get good? Absolutely not. But they absolutely wanted to take away souls to the polls. There was a benefit to shining a light on what it was that they were trying to do in the dark in Texas. So unfortunately, we've seen our numbers fall now that they have these voter restrictions in place. But I do think it's important for us to have the conversation around the fact that this is bigger than Texas. This isn't just about the 5 seats in Texas. This is about a power grab. It is about basically setting the tone for what Donald Trump will try to do throughout this country so that he can suppress the voices of black and brown folk just so that he can stay in power.
Congresswoman Danny Savalas, you organized a walkout yourself in 2021. Are you concerned that repeated walkouts could backfire politically, painting Democrats as obstructionists rather than standing up for voting rights?
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, as you also heard from the Rev, there are so many people that feel like the Democrats have not been fighting hard enough. Well, I am here to tell you, as you've already stated, I have been a loud voice of opposition to this regime thus far. We have some of the best fighters that you can find right there in the state of Texas. And so now it will be interesting to see some of those new young voices that will be introduced to the nation as they talk about why it was so important to do this and deny the quorum as they continue to go after our voices in a majority minority state, and they are continuing to suppress them systemically. And we know that the Supreme Court now is going to take up a Section 2 case, and we know that Section 2 is basically the only section we really have left of the Voting Rights Act.
Congresswoman, hi, it's Molly Jong-Fast. I was wondering if you could talk, about what there's a lot of stuff going on in the Texas House and the State House, a lot of drama. We see there's going to be drama with the Senate race, the Cornyn Senate race. The Republicans are actually really fighting with themselves, too. I wonder if you could talk to us. Yeah, I mean, just unbelievable stuff. I wonder if you could talk to us about sort of what's happening there and a little bit about your the other people in the Texas House who are, how are they feeling heading to Chicago? Have you been talking to them?
Yeah, so about my former colleagues, I am so excited. They worked really hard, and unfortunately, it is so clear, just like the Republicans on the federal level, they are not interested in doing what's right. They are interested in serving one person, and that's Donald Trump. Unfortunately, they could care less what their constituents say. We know that they had all of these town halls, and I'm calling them town halls because they didn't have the bill, and we know that the vast majority of the people that came out said, don't do this. And then we know that they only had one hearing on the bill, and the vast majority of the people, over 400, registered to testify against this bill, and they only had 48 hours notice to come during a business day to get to Austin and to testify, but they showed up anyway. But when you talk about the dysfunction within the party, I'm sure you have seen the headlines from my friend from Georgia, as she's now come to the realization that maybe the Republicans aren't big fans of women women, and she's coming to these other realizations about the Republican Party. I think it is something to be said that there's MAGA and then there's Republicans. And I think that's what you're even seeing that's going to play out in this Senate race. I will be honest with you and tell you that Senator Cornyn is a Republican. I will be honest with you also and tell you that Ken Paxton is MAGA through and through. We're talking about someone who had been under felony indictment in the state of Texas for almost a decade. In fact, he was indicted before the felon in the White House was indicted. We're talking about someone who had been under federal investigation. We're talking about someone who was impeached by his own party and then was not convicted, as his wife sat in the jury on the Senate side. And now she has said, I want to divorce you. And she's stating that it's biblical reasons. And I guess it had nothing to do with that fake Uber account that he had when he was going to see his mistress that was a part of his impeachment trial. Let me tell you, there is drama on top of drama, and there definitely are no family values whatsoever to be found. And now we know that this same attorney general has decided that he wants to threaten these lawmakers, because they are the real criminals in the state of Texas, not the guy who should be behind bars, but the lawmakers who have decided that in a majority minority state, they should have districts that are reflective of the people so that they can actually be in alignment with our Constitution, because that's exactly what the 15th Amendment was about.
I want your take on the direction that this redistricting fight kind of tells us the country may be going. And we understand, we've had conversations with a lot of Democrats. We had Beto on last night talking about the sort of need to fight fire with fire. So if that means California needs to take certain steps, New York, whatever, then Democrats have a responsibility, he and many others feel right now, to do that. But big picture for our country, if Texas goes this way, other Republican-led states try to copy them, and then Democrats run and do their own gerrymanders, where do we land as a country, given just the cultural and political polarization that we already have? If people's representation is taken from them in this way, where do we all end up, you think?
Yeah, I don't know where we're going, but right now, all I know is that we've got to do everything that we can to save this country, because right now it feels like we're going to hell, and it doesn't seem like we have a way back. You know, I actually had to leave a congressional delegation trip where we were in, I was in London at the time with the Judiciary Committee, and it is very frightening to see how far, how much influence this terrible regime is having, not just in this country, but on other countries. It is also terrible that our friends don't know if we can be good friends. We know that Canada is upset with us. We know that Mexico is upset with us. So the only thing that I know is that democracy is hanging by a thread, if that much. And so I do believe that we need to do everything that we can in this moment. And ultimately, the history books will write kindly about us, and we'll see what they write about the other side. Ultimately, where we go is a matter of Democrats at the heart of who we are. We believe in fairness. We believe in equity. We don't think that those are bad words. And so I think that what you'll see is that if we can get things back on track and we can get the basics back in there. You talk about the Voting Rights Act. Listen, this was reauthorized in a bipartisan way ever since it was signed into law by a Texan in the 60s. It's only now that we are debating whether or not every single citizen should have equal access to representation. Now that is a debate. Now that we've started to see that we are getting more colorful. That's the same reason that we've decided that people should be rounded up and thrown away in random cages and treated as if they are lesser than. It is time to get some humanity back in this country. It is time for us to finally be the beacon of hope that we historically have been for the rest of the world. And if this is what it takes, then this is what it takes. We are in a battle, and we are in a battle, as Joe Biden said when he ran, for the soul of this country. We are fighting for better. And ultimately, once we get the adults in the room to fix everything, as Democrats typically do, then that is when we will hopefully get some guardrails around our democracy and fix the system once and for all.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for joining us.